Take one of the Freedom Flame.
Freedom Flame.
Aye, it'd be Freedom FM.
Yes, and the flame will never burn out.
Amen, amen.
An important matter, many topics. However, it all starts, JG, with your sudden motivation, perhaps not sudden at all actually, but you felt the need to go to Egypt to see the pyramids. Where did that idea come from and when?
Amen, you are right, Ron, in that. A short time before this initiation, this major rite of passage happened in the Egyptian pyramids, I had a trip to Glastonbury, England, where I had some very profound spiritual experiences. Amongst them, I received instruction to wear a pyramid on my head.
That sounds like it would be very heavy and straining on your neck.
Yes, one that you could freely wear as an empty skeleton of a pyramid on my head. Yes, I was exposed to the possibility of healing tools by a shop on the high street.
Really?
I saw a place where there was a man claiming that he was in fact a conduit of Jesus Christ.
Really?
And he had a shop on the high street that sold healing tools, and there was a man inside, and he was just very warm and very welcoming, very inviting, and I knew he was truly a man of God and in peace. And I stayed with him for a while, and I spoke to him for a long time, and the tools that I saw inside and what the place felt like it really represented for me felt like a place that it had information that I needed to know. There was tools and inventions inside it, and a vibration inside that I needed to know about. I felt very drawn to it.
Yeah.
And the first thing that people might say if they saw someone proclaiming to be Jesus Christ on your window is probably to laugh and think that was ridiculous.
Of course.
But to my mind, anyone that was claiming anything like that or anything similar,
You was drawn to?
I was drawn to.
You say it was a shop of tools. Tools build things. What do these tools build?
These tools would ultimately build a light body inside a man.
Okay.
It raised his vibration, filling him with light, drawing to him godly power, so he might be raised and ascended.
And you, after this, time with this man, you were instructed by, I'm presuming you're referring to, downloaded some info from the ether to wear a pyramid on your head.
Yes, a pyramid that might be compared to the Great Pyramid, of the exact dimensions, of the exact proportion, though only small enough that it could go on my head with ease. And in the time after wearing this pyramid, immediately my energy began changing. Light code started pouring into my mind, into my body, and very quickly my lustful desires for anything, my lower nature, began to evaporate very quickly. In fact, I would almost say that it started to ascend me almost by itself, just by the act of simply wearing it. And over the course of a few weeks of wearing it, into my mind beamed ideas, science and information about what this pyramid was actually doing to me. And I wanted to know more and more and more. My desire to smoke, or my desire to eat certain foods, or take part in anything that was of lower nature, started to dissipate from simply wearing the pyramid alone. And in my heart started brewing a desire, a calling to go to the Great Pyramids of Egypt to find out more and answer a calling in my heart that was to do with the pyramids. There was some secret inside the pyramids that was basically being born and fertilized inside my mind from wearing the pyramid, that I had to go and see the pyramids themselves.
Yes. So ultimately it took you out of your flesh and into your spirit and led you to wanting to go to Egypt.
Yes.
How long a period between getting back from Glastonbury and wearing this pyramid did you say, right, I'm booking my flight and I'm doing it?
I think it must have been over the course of a month.
Okay.
Over the course of a month, that idea started brewing in my mind that I have to go. I have to go soon, really soon.
You couldn't deny You couldn't deny the magnetism, you had to do it.
I couldn't deny the magnetism. It was overwhelming.
Was the information before the flight that you say was being downloaded digestible to you, or was you confused and lost?
No, it was making total, absolute sense.
Okay.
It was never more clear to me that this was something that I had to do.
Okay.
There's some preparation to the initiation, which was definitely important, and it required a lot of the knowledge that I'd sort of been accumulating over the years to detoxify and purify my body as much as humanly possible, to make myself ever more receptive and extremely sensitive to the subtle energies, so that when I got to the pyramid, I would be able to receive the mysteries of it.
Understood. So what did that look like, the preparation, body cleanse?
Body cleanse was really a few weeks of fasting, massively lowering the density of all my diet. A lot of ascension practices, including regular icy cold showers, a lot of breath work, like I said, fasting from actual dense matter, so not really eating any food, softening, and obviously being totally celibate.
Yep.
All of these practices, raising the vibration and making the person more and more subtle and more sensitive. And it was really in all building up to the preparation that there would be a 3-day period of a dry fast right before the actual pyramid initiation, right before the moment of actually going in and laying in the sarcophagus in the Great Pyramid. There would have to be a period of true purification of fasting, so that what would happen in there would be that which was destined to happen. But the only way to open up that gate is to be purified specifically by that means, and that's written in the Emerald Tablets
Of Thoth.
of Thoth.
Why do you think it is important to fast and to not eat, and then to make it a dry fast? How does that purify you? The things we're eating are blocking us?
Yes,
Blocking us from our spirit, are they?
indeed. The body must be purified. The glands must be made ultra sensitive. He must draw as close to heaven-born powers and of godliness as humanly possible before he meets one of these energy portals, one of these great gates unto the mysteries that are placed on the earth.
Otherwise he simply will not be receptive to any of it. And a normal person could go and lay in this tomb and think, oh fuck me, that was dark and cold, I won't do that again.
Indeed.
Yeah.
To the regular person, these places are beautiful and enigmatic, but are by no means doorways into other worlds.
Okay.
However, the true initiate and true seeker, by offering the sacrifice of flesh that he does in the fast, makes himself pure. He makes himself truly
Ready.
Truly ready to receive that mystery.
Okay.
And that's what the plan was to do.
So tell me about the day of your flight.
So the actual day of the flight, once it had all been built up and I was purified and ready, just arriving at the airport, literally upon arriving, someone came straight to me, complete stranger out the blue, who had no idea who I was, and said, "Do you know the Emerald Tablets of Thoth?"
Are you joking?
This really happened. He come up to me, as soon as I arrived, he looked at me, tried to wave me down, and I just sort of waved and smiled and walked away. And then he actually followed me all the way into the airport.
In England?
In England.
Okay.
And he caught up with me. And said, "Mate, do you know the Emerald Tablets of Thoth? Do you?" And I said, yes. And he goes, "Well, I've got something to tell you."
Oh, no.
And he started unfolding and unpacking something, a mystery in the tablets that at the time wasn't fully understood to me. He started unpacking basically a mystery that I was going to need for my initiation.
Wow.
Regarding the magnetic poles of the earth and shifting the bloodstream in the body. It's written about in the tablets, though I didn't fully understand it. This man had been practicing it and knew exactly what I needed to do, and was overwhelmed by a compulsion to follow me around and make sure he told me exactly the specific instructions down to the letter.
With what if you could boil down what this man said to you?
It was
what
to do
instructions
with
did he give you?
the magnetic poles of the earth, and how that directing the body and sleeping or indeed laying down the body in a certain direction, either magnetic north or magnetic south, would draw the blood either up towards the head or down towards the feet. And like a bottle of water on the windowsill, if you turned it upside down, periodically every couple of hours, the water would stay fresh. But if you left that bottle of water standing still by itself, over a couple of days the water would go stagnant.
Okay.
But if you turned it upside down regularly and kept moving the water, it would stay fresh.
Okay.
And that these instructions in the tablets were to do with moving the blood and the vital forces up and down the body in an extreme way, like turning the body upside down to shift these vital forces in an extreme way, so that the body never fell stagnant and kept away the fingers of death and maintained the youth of man.
This is what he delivered to you.
Is what he delivered to me with no prompt or any.
So, you came away from this man. How did you feel and what did you think?
Well,
was this like, I can't believe that this has happened? Or?
Well, at this point in my life, those level of synchronicities had become truly believable and normal everyday occurrence. But it was from this point that I knew that this was truly a pilgrimage that was going to be extremely important, that was going to harbour in it life-changing events.
Yeah.
And that it was truly my destiny to be answering this calling.
May I ask, did you have the pyramid on your head in the airport?
I did have the pyramid on my head in the airport, yeah.
Wow.
The pyramid didn't leave my head. Yeah.
That's how we found you.
Indeed.
Anything else important happened in the airport? Or
at the airport, that's where I began my fast, the actual dry fast. Yes.
So you'd been on a water fast prior?
Yes.
You hadn't eaten in how long?
I don't actually know. Maybe a week.
Okay, it doesn't. Okay.
Maybe
so
a
you
week.
began your dry fast pre-flight,
Yes.
which means no food, no water, no consumption of anything.
Only breath.
Okay, and had you done? You've done this before, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. And what briefly did you understand about a dry fast before this? Like, what can it do to a human?
I knew immediately.
The average person might think, bloody hell, you'll die.
This was the most extreme way to super sensitize the body to the subtle forces around you. That very quickly, over the course of a dry fast, that state which you could call psychedelic, which you could call a psychic trance, would slowly envelop and engulf the soul of the spiritual seeker. That if he was to lose himself in breath, in his own mind, he could find true stasis in his body and mind, and that stillness where he can hear the quietest vibration. He could pull his soul and body into such a stillness of stasis where he could really hear God speak.
Okay, I hear you. So can we now land in Egypt?
Yes.
So we land in Egypt. Is it day or is it night?
Yes, it's night time, and at customs, my bag and everything is ripped to pieces, and my entire being is scoured and ruthlessly combed through by customs officers who believed I was some nutty terrorist.
Why is that?
I think it's purely because
your appearance?
My appearance,
Which is what?
Which was a robed, bearded, tattooed-looking mage from another planet with a pyramid on his head,
Okay.
whose passport didn't look anything like the actual person that they were in front of.
Okay.
So it obviously was very, very strange.
Okay.
They were very, very thorough. But
what would they have found anything
no, there was
of interest in your bag?
There was some very bizarre things in my bag, just including just robes and spiritual paraphernalia that none of it really connected any dots and made any sense at any point
To anyone else?
to anyone else.
2 or 3 examples of spiritual paraphernalia?
One of them being an enema bulb, which I was using to basically perform constant enemas on myself.
Enema
is clearing out your bowels
Okay.
by squirting either urine or water up your anus,
Okay.
up your anus.
Interesting.
Yes.
Why is it important to clear out your bowels?
This is important because in the actual spiritual cleansing, the detoxification process, a major part of it is that to truly become more and more subtle and to come before God, there cannot be any waste in you.
Okay.
And the waste, the smell of it, the sight of it, what it really is, a waste product, a byproduct of desire, a byproduct of consumption. It's almost like it's the lowest, densest form of matter that you could almost create yourself.
Bounding you to the physical plane.
Binding you to the physical
your
plane.
flesh.
Yes.
Which, if you're attached to it in any way, you cannot truly ascend.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. And so part of this fast is that you in the fast you cleanse yourself all the stuff, and then the ending part of it is that you have to form these enemas, these
Clear your bowels.
you have to clear the bowels. You have to make sure the whole passage, because even when you're not eating food, there's still going to be some sort of remnants of like residual waste that's still in part of you. So you have to basically just deeply cleanse the body. And I found that actually using your own urine is the best way.
Really?
Yeah.
Why would that be?
The urine is super conductive. The urine is super cleansing, super purifying, and it's actually bound. The actual quality of the urine is bound to the will of what you actually want it to be. It could be an anti-poison. It could be an anti-venom.
The urine is bound to the will of what you want it to be.
Yeah, it really is charged with your intent of what you actually wish it to actually be.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Why urine though?
It is because it is super conductive. It's a super rich, almost liquid.
Almost.
It's comparable to a holy water.
Really?
It's so rich in minerals and that which conducts the God force. It's super conductive.
See, I would say we've been led to believe that there'll be like your urine is like ridding of toxins.
Initially, yes.
Okay.
Once the body becomes more and more purified, there's no actual detoxifying quality that's actually coming out of it, and it starts becoming clearer, purer.
Okay.
Like the urine of an innocent child that was used in the shamanic tribes as like a holy liquid, as a holy magic power.
Okay. So you're clearing your bowels out. They've found this bulb and they've found. We have to get back to the customs.
Yes.
Are they talking English? Are they questioning?
Very little, and they're all very bewildered. Very.
And what is your method of presenting yourself or speaking with them? Are you pleading? Are you explaining, justifying, or are you just amused and letting them get on with it? How have you?
I could only smile and let them just do whatever that. There was no convincing them that I was anything other than an international terrorist at this point.
Okay.
Until they had absolutely gutted everything, which they did, and then they were happy. Then they let me go. And I went off and met a friend of mine who escorted me to my hotel from the airport.
A friend of yours?
Yes. And from that night, that initial night when I got there, I arrived at a hotel.
Yes.
Right outside the Great Pyramid.
Really?
And my bedroom window is literally outside the pyramid, and I align my bed to the magnetic north and magnetic south so I can start performing these practices and gaining more and more power.
The sleeping practice.
The sleeping practice. Yes,
okay.
yes. And it's at this point that I speak out to the pyramid. In my meditation, I pray and call out to it and ask for it to reveal to me the mysteries. And it says very clear, plain as day. By the time I had even finished what I was actually calling out, the pyramid responded and said that it'll only answer to the initiated.
When you say it responded, auditory or
in my meditation?
In your meditation?
In my meditation.
It would only answer to the initiated.
It only answered to the initiated, and I said, well, then what have I got to do? And it said, you already know what you got to do. You got to do a 3-day dry fast.
And at this point, what are you about? Not even 24 hours.
Yeah, not even 24 hours.
Okay.
Not really.
Okay.
So, but I'm feeling very sensitive, and the compass that I've brought with me is acting very differently around the pyramid. And there's a real clear electrifying force that's around the pyramid. The vibration that's around it was very potent and brought you. If you were spiritually inclined, it immediately pulled you into a high spiritual vibration. There's no doubt about it. This was a holy site. This was the real deal.
So is that bodily sensation?
Yeah, definitely.
Coupled with psychic awareness.
Psychic awareness. You were definitely charged with a higher power. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, so this first night, you know, the pyramid told you what to do. In the coming days, so you now got, you know, another 48 hours dry fast, or maybe a bit more, let's say. Do you you meet anyone or go anywhere?
Yes, it's in this time that I was to see many different people passing by in a place that was really not very spiritual on the outside. Everyone really just being consumed by money in immense poverty. But amongst these people, on my travels through these sandy, poverty-stricken alleyways of just rubble,
Yeah.
a man comes up to me out of nowhere. His eyes wide, his pupils glassy, truly white. It's almost like the colour of his eyes was completely grey and silver. And he stares at me wide-eyed without blinking and stops me in the street and says, "Did you get the message? You've got the message." And I said, "Yeah, I did get the message." And he goes, "Right, come with me. I need to speak to you." And I went with him.
When he says a message, is he referring to the pyramid?
I can only assume that that's what it is about.
Okay.
It's about going to the pyramids, and he something about him drew him to me, and to put his hand on me, stare me deep in the eyes.
Did you get the message?
And
Yes, I did. Okay, come with me.
Okay, come with me.
Wow. So you went.
And I go with this man, and I sit down in a place nearby that's right near where he lived, and he tells me that there's someone that I have to meet. There's someone around here that's of the bloodline of people that are keepers of the initiatory rites of the pyramid, and that he's very good friends with them, and his family live basically in the house closest to the pyramid, and that his father and his father's father have all lived in this house that's closest to the pyramid, and they pray and worship the pyramid, and they do it all in secret because the place is extremely Muslim and almost very anti-spiritual around the area. Yeah, really
very actually religious Islam.
Yeah, and they don't like anything to do with the higher rites of the pyramid. It's all kept really, really hush hush.
Okay.
He basically said to me that you can't tell anyone about this, what we're going to do and what we're going to talk about, and who I'm going to take you to meet. He said, I'm going to take you to meet someone tomorrow.
So from your perception, these people were expecting you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It really, really felt like that.
Okay.
And he took me to his family, and he muttered something to his family in his doorway, and they were all praying to the pyramid in a house that is literally a stone's throw away from the pyramid. I mean, literally like not even 50 meters away from the Great Pyramid, and they're all in there and they're praying. And they put their hand on my head and they start praying and muttering all these words in Arabic. And they said, "Brother, welcome home. This is your home. This place." Like, it's referring to the pyramid in Egypt. And yeah, they said, "Later tonight, I'll take you. Meet me at this time. I'm going to take you to meet someone. He's got a crystal that you need to see. You need to meet this man because he's going to prepare you for your initiation in the pyramid." And I said, and I'm into this dry fast, and I've been really, really sensitive and subtle, and this whole thing is coming on like a psychedelic trip, and it's really, really intense, and like I'm literally bound in a real life myth, in a real life fairy tale.
Yeah.
And I meet this guy later on, and it's now nighttime and dark, and he says, "Right, it's time for you to come meet this man. He'll know everything that you're thinking. When he talks, make sure you listen. Don't get him to he won't repeat anything that
He won't repeat himself.
he won't repeat himself. He'll know everything that you're thinking, so don't try and lie to him. Don't try and really say anything. Just listen to what he says, and he'll prepare you. And then he'll show you the crystal, and then you'll be ready for your initiation."
Is there any fear in you?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not even the slightest bit of fear. In fact, this is the experience that was starting to happen. The story that I found myself in was the very reason that I went. Because I knew that I knew that I'd be, if I went alone, I'd find myself wrapped up in a fairy tale,
A quest,
a real seeking pilgrimage quest of truth.
Yeah.
And
It sounds like a bloody Indiana Jones film at this point, doesn't it?
Tell me about
But
it.
this is your actual real life.
This really,
you don't
really
need
happened.
to go to the cinema to see this shit.
No, this really was happening.
So
For
you
real.
go and see the Crystal Man.
And he takes me under his wing, and we go through these winding dark alleys at night. Just the odd barking dog and the odd little homeless child just sort of scooting across like barefoot. And it's all quiet and very hush hush, and he's not letting anyone talk to me, not letting anyone speak to me or come close to me. And we're getting drawing closer and closer to the house of this Crystal Man. And he goes, right, we're here. When I open the door, don't tell anyone what happens inside here. This is all very, very secret and hush hush. And he opens the door, and the Crystal
house,
Man.
hut.
It was the opening door to a tall, like maybe 5-story complex
Okay.
of a little tower.
Okay.
And the man is there behind this door, and he's unblinking, unwavering eye contact, like so sharp. His eyes like beaming a really, really rich energy. His eyes didn't leave mine, and they never really blinked. And he just stared at me with a massive wide smile and put his hands around me. And
Wow.
he just said, "Welcome home." And
Wow.
just had this big smile, and I'm really sensitive, and I'm just being really, really receptive to it. And he pulls me inside, he closes the door, and he says, "What happens in here, you don't tell anyone." I said, "Okay." And he goes, "First I'm going to take you to the line, the place, the sacred space." And he takes me around in this complex, and he says, "Right, this line here," he was talking about a ley line.
What's a ley line?
A line, an energy center vein that runs through the earth, a line of power,
Beneath the terrain.
beneath the terrain,
Spiritual channel.
a spiritual channel, a vein that was connected to the Great Pyramid.
And I believe there's one in Glastonbury.
There is one in Glastonbury.
Okay, so they're everywhere.
They are
And
everywhere.
he's taking you inside the complex.
Inside the complex,
There's this ley line.
he says there's a main. He said the main jugular ley line, the main ley line that connects the Great Pyramid, runs underneath my house.
Wow.
And there's a specific spot to the meter where I'm going to get you to stand over it. I'm going to bring you over to it, and when you go over to it, don't say anything. Just let it work what it's going to do. And so he walks me over to it. Him and the other guy put their hands on me, and they start praying and in Islamic. And then they drawing me closer and closer, step by step, to this line. And he's got his hands on my shoulders, and he goes, "Step, one more step, one more step, one more step." And then he goes, "Stop, just there." And I sit on there for a couple of seconds, and then, like with what these power spots do, my whole sort of organism started becoming like really sort of weak. And my consciousness grew in power, and my body sort of started falling down. And eventually I sort of fell onto my knees, and my eyes sort of fell closed, and I almost felt like I was going into a trance, asleep. And then overcome in my mind was a load of visions of the pyramid and gods.
Wow.
And I just lay on the floor, basically sort of starting to weep. And then the Crystal Man come behind me, and he started laying his hands on me and performing like a Reiki healing on me, so like a Reiki move of energy, and started channeling all this energy into my spine and praying over me. And so was the other guy doing it. And started feeling this immense amount of energy being charged into my body. And these guys just seemed to know that this was just what I needed. That somehow they just knew this is what I had come here for. And I just start filling out of energy, and eventually just start crying, and as I'm being sort of charged with this immense godly power on the base of this complex. And once this time has passed, I don't know, it must have been 5 or 10 minutes, laying on this spot on the floor, he goes, "Right, it's time, you're ready." And he takes me upstairs to the top floor of this tower, into the place where he lived, which is this apartment. And I walked through this door, and at the top of this apartment, this top floor, is like a penthouse, and everything's gold. All the furniture is gold, all these sofas are gold, all the tables are gold, the walls were gold. Everything was just shining gold. And he sits me down, he points at a sofa and says, "Right, go sit there." And I go sit on this sofa. And he goes, "Just wait here, I'll go get the crystal." I'm still sort of thinking, like, oh, I've had the experience now. I kind of had whatever possibly could have happened, the height of it. And I just sit there sort of quietly with my eyes closed and almost just contemplating, and the other man's sitting there waiting patiently, knowing what's going to happen. And the guy then comes back out. He appears. He says, "Put your hand out and close your eyes." He says, "I'm not going to say anything. You're just going to hold this crystal, and you're just going to let it speak, and I'm not going to say anything or do anything." And I go, "Okay." I put my hand out, close my eyes, and he drops this little crystal into my hand. It must have been the size of like a grape.
Okay.
Like a clear crystal with some colouring inside of it. And as soon as the crystal touched my hand, my actual flesh, on my closed eyes, immediately a searing, pounding white light, like literally like the light of God, starts illuminating before my eyes. Like someone's just flicked on like a floodlight behind my eyelids. And immense visions of gods and angels start pouring into my mind, and immense energy starts running through the vertebrae of my spine, and they're just all sort of talking to me and giving me all this metaphysical data and these downloads. And then I clasp the crystal in both of my hands and pull it towards my chest and pull it towards my heart, and then this immense energy starts running through my spine, starting from my base, starting from like my pelvis, and started shooting up my spine, and it started making my whole body convulse and shake like someone was like electrocuting me, and I couldn't physically stop it. My whole body is shaking and convulsing, and I'm wriggling and writhing like something being truly electrocuted, and I just start crying, and there's this immense godly light energy that's being funneled and poured into my body, and I knew the crystal was basically this conduit of this power, and I was ready to receive it. And all these, like I said, all these images and all this code and data is being poured into my mind, and these images of God. And the two that are around me start putting their hands on me and praying in this other language. And there's some incense, and he's sort of circling me with some incense, and they're saying all this stuff. And then eventually it comes to this point where I just can't actually like contain any more energy anymore. I have to open my hand, and then he takes the crystal off me, and I just then eventually fizzle out and lay there and just cry. And he says, "Whatever you saw, it just stays with you. Now you are a prophet, and your job now is to dispense this light unto the world, and you're ready for your initiation."
One moment, can I hop in? So he says, it stays with you, but you're a prophet.
Yeah.
And you need to dispense it.
Yeah.
Is that not a contradiction?
What I saw, I don't need to tell them what I saw in the visions.
Okay, alright.
But he said, I'll just never forget it. He just says, now you are a prophet, and now you have to go and dispense the light and the love into the world, and you're ready for your initiation.
Beautiful.
And I just said thank you, and then they prayed again for me, and then the other guy that was there took me out and then walked me back towards my hotel, and I said goodbye. And he said that he would meet me again tomorrow, and that I'd be ready, and he'd have a cart ready, like a chariot,
wow,
a horse chariot ready for me, and that would take me to the pyramids.
Wow.
And I would be taken to the king's chamber, and this experience would happen.
And this was what you was going to do in the first place?
Yeah, this is what I was going to do in the first place.
But you didn't know how you was going to... You didn't know about all this stuff,
No,
did you?
No, I
You just
know.
thought you was going to go with the random tour guide, I imagine.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
do it all on your own. Next thing you know, you've had this experience, now it's coming with the chariot. I mean, that's powerful in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. And plus, by the time I was 3 days into this fast, and I was in an environment that's so sort of hostile and and like ultra mask, and everyone it's just a very hostile environment. And for you to be so spiritually sensitive and so gentle in that state, it was like really difficult to maneuver around an area like that was so hustle and bustle, so aggressive.
Was it almost trying to pull you in?
Yeah, definitely. It was just like, it was so, you were so gentle. You were like, your vibration was that of like a newborn baby.
Yeah. So there is this almost polar magnetism trying to pull you away from the pyramid?
Definitely.
Any like temptation
Definitely.
to like
and on that, yeah,
not follow through? I don't know.
On that day,
despite this experience.
On that day, despite all this had happened, all the prep and all the build-up, right before I was about to meet this guy on the chariot and have this experience, there's this overwhelming like dialogue in my mind of, well, look, you had the experience last night. Just have some food now. Now you can have some food. Don't worry about all this. You know what? You've had the experience.
Yeah.
This is all done now. There's no need to go any further. You've had it all. Yeah. Eat some food. Go look. Have some chocolate. Have some nice food. Celebrate. You've done it.
Yeah.
You've got the thing you came for.
And you're observing this voice.
And I'm observing this voice.
And is it pulling you, or are you able to?
I'm able to separate myself from it and be aware that this is a voice that's familiar. That every time anyone goes to have some major spiritual initiation of any kind, there is a voice that doesn't want you to do it. The
voice of reason.
The voice of reason. It's a tempting voice of shadow that doesn't want you to open up the next level of your consciousness, that will do anything to keep you bound in the rung that you're in. And so right before the moment you're about to do something major, it becomes the strongest.
So this is like the devil temptation.
This is the devil temptation.
Christ in the wilderness.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
That's exactly what it is.
Wow. So this is happening as you're waiting to meet the chariot man.
Yeah, even as I'm walking up to him, there's a voice that's saying, come on, just eat. And it goes, look, it's going to be, you're too tired to do all this. You're too exhausted, and you'll never get in.
Yeah.
You'll never get in.
What is that about? What is it within our beings?
This is the final bastion, the final,
why is it
the final attempt of the shadow to keep us in bondage, to prevent us from ascending onto the next rung of understanding. Because
why does it want to prevent us?
Because the next rung you go, the further from the grips of darkness you become. The stronger your light will be, the more you'll expose darkness. The darkness will be able to come less and less close to you, the brighter you become.
Yeah.
And so by doing these initiations, every time you do an initiation,
you take the power out of
you take the power out of the darkness. Yeah, you actually you align yourself with the opposing force to the darkness, and alleviate yourself from its grasp every time you do one of these initiations. So there is a desperate last-ditch effort by the darkness to prevent you from doing it.
Wow.
But in most of these initiations,
yeah,
there's always one last-ditch effort.
But you overcame them.
But I overcame because I was aware of it. I've come up against that voice before. And
have you?
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah. Right, and it's always on the day or moments before you're about to cross a threshold, a membrane into the next
level, the next plane.
Yeah. Right before.
Have you fallen victim to the voice?
Definitely.
Before?
Definitely.
Okay. So you was equipped to deal with it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's a powerful force.
Yeah.
It's so tempting. It's so glamorous.
Yeah.
And it's offering you.
It promises
the way
you.
out. It's promising you
instant gratification.
Instant gratification, yeah.
Yeah.
And to be relieved from the striving that you're in, that it's going to convince you that it's all over now. You're there.
You've done it.
You've
well
done it. Yeah, well done.
And then as soon as you give in, ha. Yeah, got ya.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
A betraying voice, really.
Very much so.
But yeah.
I know it myself. So, you fight through.
Yes.
You step onto a chariot.
Yes, the chariot's there waiting for me, and he's going to be the ultra masculine enforcing bodyguard that's going to muscle through the crowds and the onslaught of ruthless people.
Tourists.
So
you bypassed the tourist.
Yeah. He rides.
And he's just charging you through.
He charges me through, and he muscles through this massive queue of people and goes right to the front and gets me my ticket and gets everything, and is shielding me like an angel. Yeah,
really?
Yeah, seriously.
How did this feel?
It felt extremely dramatic.
Yeah.
As I'm in this chariot and he's riding me, galloping on this horse through crowds of people. I'm wearing a me Jesus gown.
Yeah.
And I'm being literally by chariot up to the pyramid.
Within this, right? So a major part of spiritual ascension and all this journey you've been on, I imagine, is the dissolution of any ego. This sounds like it could be quite ego feeding. Was there any? No. For another person perhaps, but for you, no. There was no sense of obviously we want to believe we're great, we want to say we are great, I am divine, I am but how where's the line between true divine kind of heroism and egotism creeping in? Because this sounds like, to an average, you you could lose your marbles here at this point and think you're something. Well, you are something special. Do you know what I'm trying to say though?
Oh yeah,
it could
definitely.
just inflate your ego to a point of it could send you back down the wrong way, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
It's an extremely grand image, and because I hadn't actually intended really for it to happen, and it had literally been manifested for me so that I could fulfill this initiation. It felt like a wind, but it felt like an emergency rescue from a divine power to make sure that this last little step of the journey, when I was most weakest,
after the temptation,
being able, and just pushing through it, and just really insisting on that this was what I was going to do, that I wasn't going to leave without this happening. This felt like a real divine interjection that was like this last little push of someone shielding me, and actually like taking me there.
Because ultimately you've made a lot of sacrifice to get here.
Immense,
and you're doing this not in service of yourself at all, really, are you? This is for a greater cause that you've been compelled to do beyond any like personal kind of objective.
It's to simply know God more intimately.
To know God.
Beyond the ticket office.
Yeah, you get there, you've skipped the queue, you're in, now what happens?
We're riding through, I'm bobbing up and down on the seat of this chariot, looking around, and the awe-inspiring wonders of these pyramids are just there right before me, and I really am there. I'm actually in the grounds, and it's really happening. And immense psychic experience and visions are coming over me while it's happened.
While you're in the chariot.
While I'm in the chariot, and these past lives of lives that I'd lived in these Atlantean epochs are all flashing before my eyes. Whole lifetimes of lives that I'd lived.
Really?
Yeah, as a man in Atlantis, in and around these pyramids, when these pyramids were really at the height of their use. All the lives that I'd been living in the build up to this moment were all flashing before me, and it was this convergence of all these stories that I'd been living, and these myths that I'd played out were all converging all simultaneously onto this one moment. It was like my whole life had built up to this moment, this life in this moment, to
realise where you came from,
to realise where I came from, to realise and that all the breadcrumbs that had been left for me by all my previous lives to come to this place at this moment to receive this blessing. Those breadcrumbs that I'd been following, I'd finally got to that converging point where
not
I was meant to be.
Get off story. How long have you been following them breadcrumbs?
I don't feel like it almost feels like I never haven't been.
Okay. So you're having these major flashbacks of past lives.
Yes.
This must be overwhelming.
Yeah, it's really overwhelming, and the feeling of true tantamount titanic destiny is so heavy and overbearing that it's really just hard not to be constantly like flooded with tears. And I'm just looking at the pyramids as the stone that they are then, and able to see them through the eyes and lens of my sort of previous Atlantean life, and see them in their absolute glory, of them in the time of their splendour, in the time of their like peak and of their prime. And it was really, really overwhelming, and so we just kept riding on this thing, and eventually took me to literally the doors, the opening of the Great Pyramid, the actual entrance. And it was at that point where it was time, and I hopped off the thing, I turned around, and he was gone. He just disappeared.
He just left you?
Yeah, he just totally disappeared. And it was just time, it was the moment.
So you're not being led through by a guide?
No.
You're given free roam in the Great Pyramid?
Yes, but not in the Great Pyramid, because the whole place is obviously guarded by militia and everything like that. And I'd actually been to the pyramids just the day before to check them out. And there was this armed guards everywhere, and I'd been wearing this religious robe, and they wouldn't actually let me meditate and pray by myself because they have this place extremely heavily guarded, and they don't want anyone to have a religious experience there.
Why?
It's hard to say, but someone high up in their government knows that you can have a major religious initiation here, and that prophets and holy men throughout all time have come to this place throughout their reincarnations to have this flame of wisdom be ignited in them, and that this is a place where something really, really major in the evolution of the soul throughout all of its incarnations can really, really happen here, and that souls are led back here lifetime after lifetime to receive and drink from this well of wisdom.
They don't want that.
Pardon?
They don't want that.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But it's very guarded, and it was a very if you wasn't in a spiritual state of mind, it was very unspiritual. The place was like made with a very extreme deliberate effort to be extremely unspiritual, and to have to be castrated completely of any kind of divine quality. And so you had to, but what the beauty of it was, it meant that only if you was ruthlessly determined to have a spiritual experience there and was willing to do anything for a spiritual experience there would you actually get it. No one would have it unless you were devoted and done all the prep and was able to see it through those.
So it actually serves you better in the long run, I suppose, because you've had to do so much spiritual work 100%. To be able to receive it.
100%. Otherwise, the mysteries of the pyramids are truly guarded unless you was. They're guarded by dimensional power that you can't touch unless you're truly purified and truly earnest and pure in heart to go there and receive it. But I got to the actual entrance to the pyramids, and they're guarded, like I said, by a lot of people, and the possibility in my mind of being able to actually go in there alone and perform some major ceremony or some spiritual rites in there was actually, when I got there, I realised was completely off limits. There was no chance of that happening. And it basically cost me all of my money. I don't know how much money it was, but I had to give quite a lot of people, guards and people there who were deciding who goes in and who goes out and what you can do in there. I had to pay them basically all of the money that I brought with me so that I could do what I wanted in there. I had to bribe a lot of people to be able to go in there alone in the darkness and lay in the sarcophagus and say and do the things that would change me and open up these gates and have the wisdom that is the holy of holy rites. The only way that was ever going to happen basically was being in there alone and being able to sing these invocations.
Do what you wanted to do.
Do what I was being called to do.
Yeah.
The only way to do that
bribery
was basically through bribery.
But you got in.
I did, and it cost me all my money, and I was hurtled up those stairs because there's no air in there and you've had no food and water, and so your heart's beating like nuts, and they close the thing off, they close the door, and all this big queue of the public all waiting out there with frowns on their mind. And this guy in robes has just sort of walked past the queue with some armed guards and is being sort of all whispered and hushed into the pyramid by himself.
Wow.
And it was all the environment was all very like hush and all weird, and
yeah.
Because it was money, and they basically kept saying to me, look, no, you don't tell anyone about this, you don't tell anyone that you've paid this money, you don't tell anyone that you've been in this pyramid alone or anything like that. It's a real big deal, and they're really really serious about it. The King's Chamber, I'm talking about, it's the main chamber inside the pyramid.
But that's not part of the tourist experience.
The tourists do go in there, you have to pay extra money to go in there, but you're not allowed in there to do anything other than
look around,
because it's only one room.
So did you explain, look, I need some time on my own in there?
Yeah, I just yeah, that's pretty much what I said.
Okay.
I need to go in the pyramid, I need to be by myself in the King's Chamber with the lights off. It needs to be pitch black, not a single thread of light. I need to be inside, I need to lay in that chamber. I've got to go in. And they was like, no, it opens at this time, closes at this time, you go in with everyone else. And I got a little bit of money out. He's like, look, it's not, no, and I'll just get more and more money out until I basically just get every bit of penny. I don't know what, it might have been 300 quid.
Yeah.
We just shy of 300 quid.
Yeah.
Which to them is a lot of money, that's like a few months' wages.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'll speak to this guy, and then he hands a bit of money to that guy, he hands a bit of money to that guy, and then, then this thing starts happening, and I go in, so they unlock the door, I go in, they close the door.
They
close the door after me. And the guy there, this sort of the wiry little the little sort of minion guy that was like the final guard, he goes, quick, and everything all changes from sort of hush to like, quick, there's not much time, come. And he's like leading me up the tunnel up into the King's Chamber, and then and my heart's pounding because there's no air in there. There's like literally no air. You're inside a giant like tomb, looking thing, and there's no air, no breath. And I finally get to the top of this thing, and he goes, quick, there's not much time, more money. And every bit of money I had left, I just gave it to him, just because it didn't really matter at this point. I would have given this was the crux of everything. This is what I felt like my whole life and all this prep was built up. It was like any amount of money, if he asked it to me, I would have given it to him. Yeah. And I go, okay. I went, right, turn off all the lights, turn everything off and get out. Turn every single thing off and get out. And I whipped my clothes off, and I had the tone of 33 hertz playing. And I know that this tone...
On what? Your phone?
On my phone.
33 hertz? 33
hertz, coming through a headphone into one of my ears.
Yeah.
Because I know that this tone, when you go into these sacred spots, is basically like a key of how you open up these gates in these sacred zones. It's a vibration that will actually open up these gates. And he goes out, I take my clothes off, I get in the chamber, I soak my feet and soak my head. My whole hair's soaked in jasmine from the night before, and oils, and I've been praying and doing all these stuff all day and these constant enemas. I was just so primed and ready. And I've got this tone playing in my ear, and I lay in the chamber, which is the sarcophagus of granite, like a bath. And I close my eyes and I start singing the tone, the 33 hertz pure tone, which was to resonate in the chamber, resonate in the stone, and the ormus power, the spiritual energy, the actual God force that's being channeled into those pyramids is going to start running through me. I'm going to make myself a living conductor of it.
So this is going to be all the more powerful than the experience in the penthouse.
Oh yeah.
By 10
million. I'm about to have the experience that basically prophets have sought to have and have been called for throughout the ages. I'm about to engage in some Atlantean ceremonial magic of how you align yourself with God, of how you become a God man.
Yeah.
And I start singing these tones, put my hands on my chest, and I invoke Thoth to meet me. And I close my eyes.
Are you able to give us?
And as soon as I close my eyes, not like in DMT where you go through like a portal of light or anything like that, I closed my eyes and I was there. You were already there.
Where's there?
And I wrote something on at the time because I knew that I'd forget.
What, in the darkness you wrote this?
No, I wrote this after.
Okay.
Because I wanted to recount it because I knew I'd forget. So with the washed feet and a washed head, it was like an oven. It was so humid, the chamber. My body hummed like a strong current was going through it. I closed my eyes and prayed. I sung the pentatonic scale with the root frequency of 33 hertz. I hummed it and it vibrated in a way like never before. My whole body vibrated with such an energy. It was as though that I was vibrating at one with the whole world. As though as I'd touched the root, the core frequency vibration that was one with the whole thing, that was all one with all things. It was as though I'd dissolved my entire being into the vibration of God. And it was so amplified. And I sung these frequencies in a song of devotion and sculpted like an energy portal. And I closed my eyes and immediately Thoth met me. He was there waiting for me. The Egyptian god, the middleman that connects man with the heavens, was sitting there waiting. His hand was already outstretched, open, waiting for me. And he pulled me into where he was, into that space, and welcomed me home. And him and amongst a load of other host of angels and Egyptian-looking gods were all sitting there plain as day, waiting for me. And they explained that they had orchestrated this whole thing, and they knew I was going to be exactly at that moment, exact time, and that they had sculpted the events and the people and the circumstances so that I would be in that exact spot at that exact time, and there was no illusion to them as to why I was there and why I was there at that exact moment, and explained that this was my heritage. And they showed me my previous lives in detail about me being in that chamber before.
Really?
And that I was a priest in Atlantis, and that I'd done all this many a times, and that this was my birthright to do this. And he placed on my chest the key of life, the Ankh, and he put it on my chest. And all these gods and angels that were in this heavenly dimension were there was no pain or suffering or anything of any kind, started beaming forth light. They started channeling forth all their power into my heart. They started shooting out these rays of light, these light beams that were like light code information that was going to change my DNA and open up me to be able to receive some mysteries that were previously inaccessible to me. They were going to open up sensitivity in my DNA in my body that was going to make it available for me to receive some higher mysteries. And they said that this place is what awaits me after my earthly life, and that by me being alive, I postpone me being there. And they raised me up, beamed the light into me, and they were also happy and pleased to see me. That they'd been watching me, guiding me, and orchestrating the whole sequence of events to the millisecond, exactly as was promised. And they were so pleased to see me, like parents reuniting an estranged child for many years. Other Egyptian gods were there, and they said that I would be there in this godly paradise and reside with the gods. Said that I would die whenever I wanted to die. And so energy and consciousness alive poured abundantly into my heart. Life force, like fireflies alight, little lights flying, bursting from their hearts, was beamed into mine. And it was explained that I was initiated, that I was free to come and go as I willed from this plane, and that I was given the key, that it was an instant gateway, that in that place, in the sarcophagus, in the chamber, that you closed your eyes and you were already there. And it was just like the art of all the Egyptian art. You could see exactly the reality that all the Egyptians were living in, all the art and everything that they were devoted to. When you closed your eyes, you were there in their world. You were immersed in what they meant. And it was just an extremely powerful experience. Really, really powerful experience what happened in there. And obviously just left me really, really emotional. And afterwards the guy said, right, the time's up. All these people now are going to come in. And he's going to let all the rest of the people in. And the lights go back on. And I'm going to have to get out of the chamber because you're not allowed to lay in the chamber under any circumstance or do anything that I've just done in there. Probably for that reason. And I just basically just sit around blubbering and sort of crying for a bit, trying to just process what's just happened to me. And then I then slowly pad outside barefoot and then just sort of walk around the pyramids and just sort of sit and cry and just try and process what's happened to me. And then a man come up to me with a horse and said, do you want to ride and I'll take you into the desert? And I said, okay, let's do it. And I just got on this guy's horse and we rode into the desert, far away from the pyramids, so they're just like on the horizon. And he said, right, you can just sit here for as long as you want. And he just set the horse up. And I then took to on a hill of sand, rose my hands up into the air and just cried these invocations in a tongue that I wasn't English. So I'm crying out these invocations that rained energy and light into the earth grid through the power of these pyramids and changed my DNA and changed my soul forever. In these great songs that poured out of my mouth, these devotional sequences of vibration on this hill of sand in the desert. And then I got back on the guy's horse and he rode me back up to the pyramids where everyone was. And then people were just walking past and they just looked at me, and just tourists would just come up to me and just try and touch me.
Really?
Yeah, people were just walking past and they just wanted to put their hand on me. And I knew that something had happened, something major had happened, because that had never happened to me before in my life. It's just strangers, people that didn't know who I was, were just felt compelled, they just wanted to put their hand out and just put their hand on me and touch me. I knew that I must have been radiating, I must have been ringing with a lot of energy. There must have been something radiating off me that was really powerful, really strong, that people without a spiritual bone in their body obviously just must have felt that and they just wanted to touch it.
They said to you when you was in the chamber that you can die when you want, you can come here, this is where you'll be. How does it feel to know that?
It's really...
Why are you here if you could be there?
Because there's a greater purpose than to just to surrender to to surrender to the peace of eternal life. There's something even greater, which is to be a vessel on earth. There's something even more powerful, even more meaningful, even more enriching to everything. To be a hero, to aid rather than to retire. It's almost like that was like the retirement home if you wanted it. A land
Of eternal bliss.
Of eternal bliss.
There's something more heroic.
There's something more heroic. There's something
coming
more.
Down to.
There's there's a greater purpose to the soul's journey that could be that there was still plenty in me.
If your soul was an Atlantean priest, as they said, what do priests do? Spread the word.
They spread the word. They are
so
living.
You feel like
vessels.
you now need to do this again in this lifetime.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And it was really it was because I suppose part of it is that there was no psychedelics involved, or there was no doubt in my mind that this was
it's not a trip.
It was as legitimate and as authentic of a spiritual human experience as you could ever have. You
because literally it wasn't aided by substance.
Wasn't aided by substance.
It's actually aided by the lack of substance.
By the lack of substance. Literally.
So it was natural.
It was as natural and as authentic and as real of a spiritual experience as you could have, which only cemented it more as truth. And it was immensely powerful.
Yeah, it's breathtaking. That the following hours, that evening, that night. How are you?
From that point, my extreme was my vibration. From that point, truly was I relieved from the need to actually eat for energy. There was so much light imbued in me. I was made available and readily sensitive to subtle energies, so much to a point where it was truly such that I would not actually need any other form of sustenance other than the light
that was in you.
That was in me, and I wouldn't really actually need any more food, like to actually sustain me, to give me energy of any kind. It was that it had brought me into such union with that power that it relieved me of basically everything. And then in the time unfolding after that, while I was still in Egypt, there was just an extreme amount of the egg that had been fertilized in that pyramid then reared its head, and then the thing started growing out of it, and all these ceremonies and magic and light code data was then started to unfold and manifest, and
so you was changed drastically.
I was changed drastically. There was no doubt about it.
You didn't break fast.
No, I didn't break fast.
So when you say this light code, what's light code?
Light code.
What's these magic ceremonies? What's going on?
The light code is a carrier wave of which information, a binary carrier wave that's carried through light of ever subtler degrees into the person. We receive it when we are asleep and when we dream, or when we have a psychedelic experience, or when we actually invoke it, even just by the power of our word. We can actually invoke this light code, which is actual information, a direct message and a direct transmission from higher intelligence that actually instructs and ascends the soul and raises them into more and more alignment with the true cause of God. And all that is starting to unfold and starting to really be blooming inside me over the coming days, over the coming week even.
So you're performing ceremony, praying. What do you? Yeah. What?
Yeah. There's
what's going on?
It's just an immense period of time where you're not needing really any sleep, I'm continuing to fast. Every time I close my eyes, even just at closing my eyes at any point, I'm flooded with light code data, fractal symbology, images, Egyptian mythology, and animated gods are before my eyes constantly if I closed them, and I'm just being instructed and taught to do all this stuff. And in all my prayers, I'm basically just surrendering ever more my will in total submission to this power to direct me. That I don't want to put my will on it in any way. I'm saying, speak through me, put in me exactly what I need to do to unfold this, to become one.
And are you making sense of all this imagery, or?
And all this imagery is being translated by my soul, by the higher aspect of me that is able to actually translate the encoded light code data, which manifests really as the spontaneous will of man. When he's truly submitted and the ego is dead, what's able to unfurl out of him naturally is the manifested, directed will of this light code, and it will get you to basically do certain things without any thought whatsoever. So you remove your thought or intention entirely and let the thing speak through you, and it will make you do certain things. It will make you start doing certain ceremonies and rituals, and I just take a back seat and I just watch my body and mind do all this stuff without no intention whatsoever. And it starts reacting. It's just moving autonomously. I'm letting angels breathe through me. I'm letting a higher intelligence.
What kind of things is it having you do?
It's making me do really what is Egyptian and Atlantean ceremonial magic, which really is arrangements of vibration and ritualistic practice, which opens up light portals, which opens up the gateway for light code transmission into Earth grid and into the user. And this was through the forms of channeling light code, things like Tai Chi, Qigong. These are names for it. You combine that with prayer, ceremonial magic, mirrors, crystals, oils, and they start all becoming one singular idea of a technique.
It starts all becoming one singular idea. What is the idea? Why does it want you as a vessel to open light portals? The mind of God wants to charge the earth grid with light. It's all the same, one singular idea. There's various rituals, ceremonies, invocations, all these things that you're now surrendered to. Okay, use me as a vessel. I will channel it. Here you come. For what? From your understanding, for what purpose?
For what purpose?
Why is it such important work?
It's the most important work because it is literally the work of God. Once you have truly aligned the will to the will of God, God will make you exactly as He is, and align your purpose to Him. And His entire work, all that He pertains to be and to do, is to continually ascend all things and to generate power in and of itself. He wants you to become like Him in the sense of He wants you to be a generator of life force. He wants you to sculpt and use and create a magic science, like the same science that is patented throughout the whole universe. The same, the way that every aspect of creation is seamlessly working in a perfect cycle and union with itself to generate energy from itself. It wants you to be like God. And
it wants to be a creator. It wants to
you to be a creator.
Infinitely create.
Infinitely create and infinitely generate power from yourself, like God is doing. And by doing, and it wants you to do that on your own scale. And by what essentially what the God power has done, has manifested all of this energy, this rich, perfect model that generates energy from itself by using these metaphysical shapes, by using a perfect mathematical geometry and the power of the word in an organizational structure of cycles and pattern that generate God power, that generates energy from itself and self-sustains by its own will. It wants you to do the exact same thing. It wants you to create tools. It wants you to create an atmosphere. It wants you to be the central sun in your galaxy of existence, and to create an orbiting solar system around yourself, so that you are able to generate power and make God energy from your being. It wants you to do that.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you will raise everything else up around you.
You will love, you will create, you will raise up.
Yeah.
And that's the nature of God, right?
That is the nature of God.
The nature of God wants
to ascend everything.
Wants to ascend everything.
Truly.
Through love and creation.
Through love, yeah. And it wants you to do the same. That's all it wants you to do. To ascend everything. But it's not. But it's sometimes it's like it's indirect. Sometimes it might not be. It might not seem like what you're doing is ascending people, or it might not seem like what you're doing is ascending you in some way. But every situation and every pattern and motif that the soul finds itself in is ascending it in some way, whether it knows it or not. It's shaping it and moulding it into God, more or less.
So you're summoning and harnessing this energy.
You're summoning, harnessing, yes.
And I presume, what I now think, listening to you here, is the reason why this is of utmost importance to, like, you know, channel the nature of God. It's what all the religious want to do, but perhaps they're off the mark. Whatever. Creation and love. In our physical plane, there's a lot of destruction and hate. So it's part of this, some essence of war, like not war, but in terms of like, are you needed to counteract all the decay and destruction in this world? Like, are people using this, and are people using this for the wrong reasons? Do you know what lines I'm following here?
Indeed. The ultimate will is the transmutation of the chaos unto the perfect order of God.
Yeah.
And that's what...
Like these portals of light, can they also be portals of darkness? If not learnt to...
Indeed. And what has been instructed and told to me is that the power of this word, the actual ability to create these portals, these wormholes into higher or lower planes of dimension, are so powerful that if they were used incorrectly, they were used wrong, man could raise up from beneath him
rather than draw down from above him.
Yeah, he could create, instead of drawing heaven onto earth, he could raise up hell onto earth from beneath him.
Yeah. Wow.
And that this is what has happened throughout time, is that people have become so consumed with this power, seeking to gain knowledge, but seeking to raise it up from below.
And they haven't dissolved their ego.
And they haven't dissolved their ego, but have been in receipt of this power and this knowledge. And this is why this knowledge is so precious and so guarded, is because to know this stuff, really, and to be able to actually use it and harness these powers, these gateways, and to have an impure heart and of an impure purpose, you could indeed summon degrees of darkness which would threaten earthly life, which would imperil matter to such a degree.
And that's going on.
And that is going on. That's been going on for a long, long time.
Yeah. Last question is, right here, right now, it's like, so now you've, started to learn this, or, you've had this experience, and you're saying, you can open up light portals. For you, JG, this lifetime as a past Atlantean priest, have you come to some relative conclusion of understanding of like what is your intention in this lifetime.
Yeah, true.
What is your intention and purpose going forward post Egypt?
It truly has aligned my purpose to what I feel is the highest possibility, which is truly to ascend all things by my power, by my wisdom, by everything that I know, and to sacrifice really everything that I am unto the highest possible purpose that is aligned with God,
which is to ascend all things.
Which is to ascend all things, and to utilize everything that is individual to me, everything that is that only I can do. I have to offer that in service. I have to offer the individuated spark of my personal scintillation. I have to offer that as a perfect offering, as a service to all things. I have to utilize the individuated sculpture as the tool, as the instrument. And so throughout my whole life of learning all art and stuff like that, and music and art and everything that I've sort of wanted to be great at or really cared about and loved, it all diverges onto one perfect sort of purpose, which is to use art and to use that wisdom that is in art, the wisdom of art that connects spirituality to science and math and all that stuff, is to use that power to raise man, to create artifacts, to create the spiritual technology, which is arrangements of vibration, that will ascend others, that will dispel glamour in the world.
So basically, just crumble more breadcrumbs for someone else to follow.
Yeah.
Is that a good way of putting it?
You're the bread maker.
Yeah.
You're the bread maker. You
can't decide who picks it up. You're not, and how they pick it up.
No.
But use me. I know this sounds silly, but from my understanding, is to just sprinkle your own personal breadcrumbs for someone else to follow. Is that a good way of putting it?
Perfect way of putting it. And it doesn't matter if people like the flavour of those breadcrumbs. It doesn't matter if you believe anything that's being said. It just matters that you're exposed to it, because it's by those very patterns of vibration, it's by that, the word, that will, whether you believe it or not, will dispel the glamour, will expose you to the light, that will unveil you, that will destroy the limiting qualities that are within you by the sheer vibration that will actually hit you by the word or by the images of the artifacts. They will actually shatter the limitation.
Whether you intellectually connect or stimulate from it or not, whether you muddy it and disparate, whether you play it down or deem it crazy, whether you even bother to look at it, if someone comes into contact.
If they come into contact with it, if they hear it,
it will ascend them to some extent.
Yes. Whether they say, I believe this bit, but I don't know about this bit.
Or whether
it doesn't matter. Or whether this is just, all of this is woo-woo.
Yeah.
By just simply hearing it, this is literally the power of this, is that just by having the sheer exposure, for it to resonate onto you, will dispel glamour.
When you say dispel glamour, what are you meaning by that?
It will, whether they like it, or whether you like it or not, it will somewhat undo the hypnosis of the flesh. It will somewhat unveil you from shadow, because the words themselves, as they are from the pure source of the true way, coming through my mouth as a living conduit of that power.
Yeah.
That power, that light that's coming through, the arrangement of that, is going to dispel the glamour. It's actually going to shoo away and decrystallize the darkness that's in you. It's going to dissolve the shadow. It's going to do what an exorcist does to someone that's possessed. The exorcist actually says holy words by making themselves a living conduit of God, and almost like sprays light code vibration from God at the possessed, and the darkness leaves them.
Yeah.
It dispels the glamour. It removes the hypnosis
Of the flesh,
Of
which
the
is my
flesh.
next question. What
So
is
they
the
can see.
hypnosis of the flesh?
The
What is this
hypnosis-
great hypnosis that we're all under?
The hypnosis of the flesh. This is the self-betrayal of which our lower nature enforces.
How does it betray us?
Our lower nature, that is veiled from the true God and from unity of all things, truly believes that it is separate from all things. It has not been unveiled. It's not been revealed to it that it is truly one with all things and that it is being governed and shaped by a supreme intelligence. It doesn't know that, and it truly believes that it's on its own. And so it makes decisions about its moment-to-moment life that are uninformed by that knowing. And so its very being, its story, becomes riddled with doubt. Its very story becomes a self-fulfilling curse of which it binds itself in its own bewilderment of the world, because the world doesn't make sense. And so these lower instincts, this lower mind, this lower nature, tries to do what's best for itself, though it's uninformed, it's unspiritual, it's castrated from high truth.
And what does this result in?
This results
wasted potential, wasted truth,
in wasted potential, in man never really knowing who he is.
And who is he?
And his place amongst the stars. He is God. Man is God. Man is Jesus. He is inseparable from that power. And he can never know that until he has an experience where that veil, this illusion of separation, is truly lifted. And this is what the spiritual experience really, really is. And this is what the prophet is here to do. He's here to
help people lift their own veil.
To lift their own veil. He can't necessarily do it all for you, but he can help to, if you hearken to his word, if you listen to what he's saying, if you have ears to hear, you must listen to it. You must allow those words to permeate you in some way and let them shape you. And you have to trust that there is a higher power that's actually trying to help you. And this is the reason that these higher powers, these angels, can't necessarily intercept you. They can't affect your free will. Your free will always be free. You will always be a sovereign spirit. At no point throughout your ascension or descension will you ever lose the right to make your own decision as to whether that's to deny God or to be one with God. You'll never lose that. But these higher powers can't actually help you out until you actually allow them and ask for it.
Yeah.
You have to actually do something on your own accord. You have to ask. You have to really willingly say, help me.
Yeah.
Jesus, I open myself to you. I open up my soul to thee. You know, you have to really ask. If they can't change your free will. They can't.
There's a humility, isn't there? That
There's a humility
needs to be had. Oh no, I'm
That's
not.
the perfect way of putting it.
Yeah, I can't. This isn't work. My way isn't working.
My way isn't working. It's that
Or it
submission.
seems to be working, but I know there's more.
And the ego,
And I don't know where to go.
that lower nature never wants to submit. It never wants to contradict itself. It never wants to feel like it's inferior to anything. It never wants to feel like there's a power greater than it. And this is where these satanic dark forces are able to really play out the will of their role in the great drama, which is they act through the lower nature. The lower nature, the spiritually castrated man, has no protection to dark forces. And so he's very quickly veiled in shadow, and his actions become not his own very quickly.
Yeah.
And he becomes an agent of that dark power.
And he loses himself.
And he loses himself, and he becomes a living agent of darkness on earth. He opens up portals of darkness with the words that he speaks,
Without even knowing.
without completely unknowingly. He denies God unknowingly through the words that he speaks.
So is there some everyday stimuli that it's just dark power disguised. Like, this doesn't actually have to mean he's a murderer, he's a rapist, he's this, he's that, he's a warmonger, he's a weapon, he's an arms dealer. It's beyond that, isn't it? Like, the average man, if not careful, though is innocent and is just paying his mortgage and looking after his family, isn't awakening to himself, and thus is just perpetuating lower vibration. But not that he should be, it's not his fault, almost, because it's all around.
Once man decides that he's going to pursue an ascension, once he decides he's going to open his eyes, that he's going to make of himself a conduit of power, the first thing that happens is that the darkness will come to him. He's now opened himself up to be a potential enemy of darkness. Man in his ignorance is of no interest to the darkness.
They're neutral.
They're neutral. They have no spiritual power. Man in his ignorance doesn't actually oppose the shadow. He actually he's simply farmed.
And he might not necessarily oppose God either. He's just almost not in the battleground.
He's not in the battleground. He's simply fodder. He's just being farmed mindlessly like cattle.
Yeah.
And this is why the spiritual man, it's only the spiritual man that's able to even believe in the devil or believe in darkness, because he's the only one that really gets exposed to it. Once you decide to pursue God in any way, you have made yourself in opposition to darkness.
Yeah.
And now you are
tried and tested.
You're tried and tested. You're now, the devil will do anything to keep you in his grasp, to keep you on his team.
Why is the darkness so scared of the light?
Because one person in the light is stronger than the entire dark force. The entirety of the dark force still can't touch someone of the light. The light repels all darkness. The single match in the cave will not be quenched by any amount of darkness. Wow. And so anyone that turns to the light is a sore loss for the darkness. Yeah. It's the worst thing that could ever happen. And so this is why in those major initiations, when someone's about to move ever further and shut the door on darkness in a more and more dramatic way, the devil will swoop in and do everything he can to tempt. He can't steal your will. He can only tempt you, and to try and do everything he can to turn your face away from the light. It's not just, that's the main ethos of the darkness, is to turn your face away from the light through whatever means necessary. Because only when he's looking towards the light is he actually ascending. Is he truly one with God? And can he manifest heaven on earth? Can he be as God is and manifest the tools, manifest the science, manifest the will and the perfect story on earth that will ascend all things?
Amazing.
But it's available to every single person. This isn't just off limits to Joe Blogs, and there's someone every now and again that might get it. It's through lifetimes and lifetimes of reincarnation after reincarnation of people going through these enormous cycles and myths of life to try and find out
to ascend. And it might take 100 lifetimes.
And the method of ascension, which is the perfected metaphysical science, is the hero's journey. It's the means of pattern of vibration of one's life, of which they shut the doors on darkness and face the light and become ever more selfless and become ever more a hero. It's called a hero's journey because a hero, the epitome of what a hero actually is that the hero has limitless power, but he actually gives himself to the other people for it. The hero could live abundantly in bliss alone and never have to worry about the troubles of the little people around him ever again. He could just fly off into the distance with all his power.
Christ didn't have to come down to earth.
And Christ is the perfect
He didn't have to come to earth.
Christ represents this state of someone who's in the pure will of God, the Son of God, S-U-N, who is the Son of God, who is a fire of God, all-knowing, all-sustaining, truly in the will of the divine, in vibrations and dimensions above that of suffering, a vibration so high and holy that it knows not of any kind of suffering, any kind of vibration that is not of transcendental bliss and beauty.
Yeah.
But the beauty of that story, what it teaches us so perfectly as a hero's journey myth, is that there's a higher purpose. There's something higher than dwelling eternally in eons of bliss in heavens, which is that you might fall from that by your own accord, by your own choice, to fall into the planes of suffering, which you, by your wisdom, have actually alleviated yourself from. You fall deliberately into the planes of suffering to dispense the truth that you know of, to try and raise people up from the darkness on a mass spiritual cosmic jailbreak. You're the person that you become a soul, a scintillation of God, that broke out the system, that broke out the prison of the hypnosis, swims away and touches the light, but then turns around, looks back and sees all of his brothers, all people that just as he are, that are actually inseparable from him, still in bondage, still in prison, and decides to swim back.
What is the point of being up here
on a
when
jailbreak?
Everyone else is down there?
What is holy about me being up here when I know that by my wisdom I could come down and help people, and I know that I'm going to come down into suffering, I'm going to be crucified for it, and no one's actually going to believe what I'm talking about. No one. This is the story of Jesus. This is the story of the prophet. This is the story of anyone that decides to do this. Is that the sacrifice of the flesh is when they say God gave His only Son. It gives the S-U-N, the Son, the energy. Someone who has become the Son of God. You know. Someone who has aligned their will so that their will is inseparable from God. They are truly God. Decides to sacrifice itself, to put its soul into flesh and to give up its joy, to give up the eternal bliss of God, to enter the world of suffering, to ascend man, to be a shepherd of men, and to die for that, because there's no other way out of that is than to die and to ascend, which is what Jesus done. And Jesus is like, he lays the blueprint. Jesus lays the blueprint of ascension down, which is, the ascension is not only to go up and meet God, but is to knowingly and willingly come down and to suffer the sin of other people, is to suffer the blindness of other people, so that you can do something greater and go through suffering that you've already alleviated yourself from. Go through it and be one with man and identify with man, so that you can raise him up and sacrifice yourself. And that's the highest possible purpose of the soul.
Beautiful. What a side note. What a side note. I'm now going to draw us out of that ultimatum and put us back on the plane home from Egypt.
Amen.
Okay? Do we need a break? Or can we suddenly come out of the highest story and back to your personal journey? You're now on the plane home from Egypt. Or perhaps you've landed. What now?
By this time of landing at Egypt, by the time of landing back in the UK, my energy is so sensitive to the point where I could just run my hand along my body, just my fingertips along my body, and feel all my chakras alight with energy. There was so much light pouring out of my hands. I truly touched the energy of which Jesus healed people with his hands with. I truly understood what that was. The light energy, the God energy, which arranges things in perfect harmony, which is not of disease, which is of the perfect arrangement of all things, of beauty, of a perfect health, of renewal, of revitalization, of revigoration. That energy can pour forth through the man who has become a conduit of that, and he can use it to heal himself and charge himself up with energy and relieve himself from having to eat or anything like that, relieve himself of illness, and he can do the same for other people with his hands. And by the time of leaving to go back to the UK, my hands were at that point where I was able to do that, and I understood how Jesus actually healed people with his hands and used the vibration that come out of his mouth in the combination with his hands to actually channel the God energy that would arrange in perfection the thing that he was channeling the energy into, whether he's placing his hands on someone's head or their feet or whatever part of the body that was trying to heal. I saw how he would do that and understood what that meant. And so by the time I come back, I'm just absolutely just resonating, like just on another. I'm just really, really ringing with power. And in that week or two after that, maybe even more than that, this pattern is still unfolding. Inventions are still pouring into my mind. It's gone from being more ceremonial in Egypt to now I've got access to physical tools here, and I'm able to create ascension tools.
What?
I'm able to create patterns of geometric form using superconducting materials.
What would they be?
Things like gold, things like crystal, things like rare metals, and to shape them into these perfect geometric structures or platonic solids, and to spin them on an axis, and to use the shape of the obelisk and the sphere, that which has been used in all of these all of the spiritual technology in these powerhouses that are the churches, that are the palaces, that are even the castles, the medieval castles, the pyramids, temples that are all placed on these power centers of the earth, all made in a very particular way out of very particular materials, made using the spiritual science that is directly from the higher intelligence, that teaches you how certain shape, geometric shape of certain materials will actually conduct this almost power, this energy that's from a different dimension. This almost is able to resonate here, vibrate here, so we can see it, and it's also vibrating simultaneously in another dimension of light. And by speaking these vibrations, these holy invocations and holy words into it and around it, you actually channel forth this metaphysical energy from another dimension through these almost rich materials that are arranged in these perfect geometric structures on top of these power centers of the earth grid. And you actually pull energy from other planes of existence, higher planes of higher vibration, of pure life force itself, into the earth grid. And this is what these holy men and prophets were actually all doing, and all in receipt of this knowledge. It's what the wizard was doing. It's these mages in these high towers and castles, the moat around the castle, all of these are very deliberate spiritual science of how we actually channel life force onto the earth grid by making ourselves as these gods. We make ourselves as these prophetic gods that are able to manifest spiritual ascension tools and use the holy word through them and with them to empower and imbue God force and potential into the earth grid, and therefore into every fractal possibility of the earth, all the people, all life, all the trees. And you realise that these trees that are coming out of the earth are basically these fractal obelisks that the earth is creating to draw power to itself. That fractals were actually able to draw power in and of themselves. An expression of the Fibonacci sequence made physically manifest, like in a tree.
What is the Fibonacci sequence?
Fibonacci sequence, you could say, is the blueprint of life force. Is the blueprint of how the God energy actually unravels itself, and it pours forth out of sacred geometry. A sacred geometric structure actually generates God force, and it expresses itself in the Fibonacci sequence. The sphere that is even the earth is made of all materials that are superconductive for this life force energy. And so the earth actually raises these obelisks, these trees, these
So nature's doing it and man's been doing it.
Yeah. Oh, nature's basically the perfected science of how you channel life force.
But man has also learned to do it.
Man has also
The
learned to
pyramid
do it.
itself was a spiritual
Power
station.
Yeah, power station. Yeah. Which with these holy words would have been said inside by many different people that were under the spiritual authority of their word to actually channel this stuff.
So, from my understanding, James, the natural flow of God, the continuous desire to create and ascend, is in nature. It is in the structures that man has built, and it's also in man's body itself.
Yes.
Let's just explore a few things here. The earth is doing it through trees. Trees are like aerials, and the Fibonacci sequence is in trees itself. The earth is generating this. Can you talk to me a little bit about the power of trees, perhaps?
Yes, the the beauty of the power of trees. Earth's natural grown fractal obelisks, like hairs on your skull. These are pure conduits, an antenna of the power, manifesting God presence and channeling it into the earth grid. These things are, like I said, like hairs on your head. They're like the hands on your body. These are fractal antenna
Yes.
that draw power to in and of itself.
Yes.
And they are expressions of the Fibonacci sequence that are coming out from the central sun of the earth, the actual heated central point of the earth, which is the in the same way that the pyramid generates the God presence, and the actual energy is concentrated in the center of the pyramid, in the center of the platonic solid, in the center of the sphere, the actual the core of where all this energy and power that the earth is generating by the spinning of its axis,
Yes.
by the rotation of it around the sun, by the shape of it that it is, by all of its fractal hairs on its head. It's all that energy is actually being harnessed and generated from the inside, the actual heart of the sphere itself. And in that central sun sphere inside itself, it is generating the light code, the Fibonacci sequence, that's actually coming out in the form of heat and of light, and going through and channeling through the conductive skull plates of the earth that eventually manifest onto the surface, the final skin of the earth, whereby man walks on a perfectly charged electromagnetic grid of pure life force. If he walks barefoot, he can tap into willy-nilly. All the earth is a giant great big conduit of God energy. Of God energy.
I understand.
Hence the rivers, hence the sea, hence the ocean. It's a giant superconductive crystal that lines it, that if you can bathe in, you can go into the earth's resonance.
Hence man, no matter his spiritual elevation level, is often taken aback with awe at the sight of nature.
Amen.
Because this is what underlies all of it. The trees, let's go back to the trees, but we won't talk about the trees, but they waver in the wind, these spiritual aerials. They waver, they sway.
Indeed, they dance.
Much like we dance, and we might attend a musical ceremony, and there might be some dancers on stage, and we might all sway in tandem. Are we then aerials too? For the God energy?
Indeed. And by the patterns of art and ceremony, and indeed that of dance, we channel forth that power. We have built in us the natural instincts to channel forth this power and use those ancient rites. In fact, we use it when we get hurt. If you stubbed your toe, the first thing you would do would place your hands upon your toe, and you would say, "Oh," but you'd say it in a roaring, "Ah!" You'd scream out a sacred vowel tone. In a truly committed way. You'd screech a vibration that would vibrate throughout your whole body. You'd hold your hands onto the thing. You'd maybe even run it under freezing cold water as an additional conduit.
Yes.
And you'd start this healing process, because your body and everything about your soul truly knows, well, when it's in despair or under extreme circumstance, how to actually channel this energy. How to heal itself using the actual God power, the God energy.
So you're saying when we stub our tongue and go, "Ah!" We're almost doing what, I don't know, a Tibetan monk does when he sits there and chants.
Yes,
or what a shaman is doing when he...
You are. You're doing the same practices of what the light workers do. Those people that have able to deliver themselves from matter and live entirely without food. Those practices of which you channel and draw the light onto you, we actually naturally do in extreme circumstances. For example, not only that when you stub your toe, but maybe when you get old and you're going to maybe die, for example, and you're laying in bed and they get what's called something like dementia or something like that, you'll start weeing all over yourself. You'll cover yourself in a superconductive liquid that conducts the God force, and you might even lay in bed and go, people think you're going crazy, you've lost your mind. But you're actually saying these sacred vowel sounds in a mantra-like thing, and covering yourself in a superconductive liquid, and trying to draw as much life force to you as humanly possible to try and stop you from actually dying. And it's even further than that. In total despair, what you'll do if you're suicidal despair, what the gesture or the pose looks like, you might even drop to your knees. You'd stare up at the sky. You'd even put your hands on your head to channel this God energy out of your hands and into your mind. And you go, "Ah!" And then you'd even say, without even knowing, "Oh God, oh Jesus
Kill
Christ."
Me now.
Oh, you say,
we might be referring to our ego,
not
our actual flesh, because we don't really want to die when we're suicidal. What we're craving is a death and a rebirth of the spirit.
Oh, we're craving
God,
yeah.
That.
And so
we're craving God.
There's all these patterns that we have, And it's even when we say hello. If I was to say hello, hello, the L sound, the EL and the AL sound are actually ways of generating the God power immediately as well, with our patterns of vibration. When I say hello to you, I wave my hand like this. I wave an antenna and waft chi towards you and say hello, hello.
You waft chi towards
I literally
me.
waft chi towards you. It's why it's sort of polite and goodwill to
we're
say hello.
waving.
When you hail the king, what does the king want you to do? He wants you to get on your knees, put your head onto the ground, and he wants you to waft your hands toward the king and say hail, 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 and you waft chi towards him, and he lays there in total receipt of it on his throne. And
So
receives it.
you're saying every day, everyday actions and words are all because we know deep down how to harness this chi,
Yes.
how to move this God energy. Also, you talk about structure before, and building structures and sacred kind of spirals and aerials and all this stuff. You could almost say, like, I don't know, a dream catcher or the toy of a baby dangling over a cot, perhaps.
What might be the perfect example is the toys that a baby is interested in, for example, or any kind of child.
A rattle.
Childs teach us. Children basically show us what the God consciousness looks like. What does the daily life of God consciousness really look like? And the baby, for example, the baby toys would be like would be something like an aerial that would hang over its bed. It'd be like a circular ring with stars and sacred geometric forms that would hang over the top of the baby's head while it sleeps. This is also ascension technology. A baby might like to play with a ball, or even those little things of like little balls that are on rings in little circles, like orbital like balls that are on little rings, and they'd like to play with it and move these rings around and rotate these balls. This is exactly what God would do. And, and even as it grows up, it grows a little bit more complex in how it's in its godly nature. If you left a child alone in its bedroom with the door closed, it would separate its mind. It would, if you give it a bunch of toys, it would partition its personality into archetypal threads and create a mythic tale amongst the toys. Say it had 12 toys, it'd separate its mind and its personality into 12 fractured archetypes of its personality and create a mythic tale, an unfoldment of how its personality is speaking to each other in the form of a myth, of a game. Hence the storyteller, the artist, is truly a God-man, is truly a child, is truly the expression of God to express mythic through partitioning its consciousness.
Da Vinci. Speak to me about him, because of the Vitruvian Man and these eggs and concave mirrors. He was a man that we're all familiar with. We've seen the film, we've read the book potentially.
Yeah.
You'll probably see the Vitruvian Man everywhere without realising. What did he know? All of this stuff. How did he? What's all that got to do with anything?
Da Vinci represents the truly divine seeker who, by the sheer utter diligence and study of nature, is unveiled, and it's shown to him clearly through his study and through his diligence and reverence of artistic form, the perfect mathematical sequence of the Fibonacci that's present within all the forms that he drew or come to understand. The skeletal shape, the shape of all animals, of trees and of nature itself. It revealed to him the connection, the pattern between God, mathematics and art and science. All of those things entwined in a perfect union, a perfect God science it's revealed to him that through his sheer reverence and his love of art itself and science and math, he understands God and he becomes the God-man and entwined truly with those sciences.
So he dispensed.
And so he dispensed, and something like the Vitruvian Man is like the blueprint, the fingerprint of that is saying that man in all of his entirety, his structure, his actual layout of the proportion of who he is geometric perfection. He is the magnum opus. That man is the masterpiece. Man is the image of God. He is the mini-God. He is the aspiring God. And Da Vinci is also someone who figured out the technology of using concave mirrors, creating these mirrored devices and tools, like Nostradamus with his mirrored egg. You can get inside and create these mirrored technologies where you bounce light and curve light infinitely. For example, if you made an egg and got inside an egg that was entirely mirrored and reflective, and light couldn't escape, you create these light vortexes where you're able to actually have enough spiritual energy concentrated into one place without it escaping, where you open up these portals to dimensions beyond time and space, where the viewer is able to actually participate in time and space that is of the past, of the future, beyond the present, and speak with angelic consciousnesses, or indeed consciousness that are below, and make prophecies. He's able to touch the Akashic records, the Akashic fields. Someone like Tesla would have been doing this, and is privy to inventions that are impossible for the human mind to comprehend or come up by its own accord, and so uses these light ascension tools. One of them being like the concave mirrors or the Kozarev mirrors, all of these different ways of bending and fracturing light so that you compress an infinite Fibonacci spiral of light and open up the dimensional gateways to higher intelligence that are able to speak into the mind of man. And he's able to see throughout time and space, like Nostradamus, make these incredible predictions, and he's able to really be a prophet. To be the prophet is to access the realm that is beyond time and space. He's able to see time and space as a unified one. He's able to see that time is simultaneously happening throughout all dimensions, and all space is simultaneously the same space. That is what the egg and the concave mirror actually is part of the revelation of.
People should look at that.
Yes, that's definitely something worth looking at, and I know that's absolutely true because in the grips of demonic activity, there's also what demons will want you to do. Is some of the methods of how demons can actually take the soul of man is that they create a technology very, very similar to this, because they know full well that once their will is inside you, they can get you to really act in any way that they want you to, and they might get you to create similar inventions where you trap this light and create like a mirrored vortex or a mirrored like a chamber, and through this trapping of light, the dark will that wishes to incarnate darkness can indeed bring forth those dark powers, or transmit and encase in bondage a soul from this plane and move it into another plane through these mirrored devices. And so these mirrored devices are extremely powerful and can be used by both dark and light as gateways from dimensions to one to the other.
So is there a spiritual war going on?
There is an eternal spiritual war going on indeed. There between the forces of light and the forces of darkness that are both working in their highest operations in secret, in shadow. They are not known to you. They are veiled to everyone as they work totally anonymously. You might see him as a cloaked man, dirty looking normal on the street, but he is working with great powers in secret. He says words that open up portals, open up gateways.
It seems to me that the dark side are in full sight.
Yes, the dark
and the
side.
light side seem to
indeed
not be anywhere to be seen, but I hope they're there.
No, indeed they are. They burrow away in silent intrigue, away from Earthmen, because Earthmen cannot comprehend them. Earthmen is actually frightened of the shaman. Earthmen is frightened, even the worker of light, as he's banished from the social sphere. His archetype has actually been made extinct, has been done through various witch hunts and the ostracizing of anyone who has a psychic experience in any way. Anyone who could be a prophet or aspiring god that could be unveiled has now been classified as totally insane. And there's there's many methods and regimes that are in place that prevent him from ever aspiring. And
so there's all this knowledge that's available to all if they should seek it.
If they should seek it.
You've come back on a plane from Egypt with it flooding into your mind. Overwhelming floods of knowledge and intelligence. Do you start to try and relay that to people once you touch back down in the UK? Do you start to tell them this story that we've had today? What do you say to your mum and your brothers? What goes on when you come back from Egypt? Or do you burrow away in your flat and start to work these ceremonies? Tell me, let's get back to the story. Touchdown UK, you've poured it all out onto me, but what happens before we got to this point over the past 2 or 3 weeks since you've been home?
When I get home, it starts unfurling. I hit my private abode. I start shaping and manifesting these tools, these ascension tools. I start dispensing the word, and for the first time, I start telling these experiences to people that I know and that I love, that have been exposed to this sort of information before. And for the first time in their journeys, they're ready to receive this and actually be exposed to this and allow the information to penetrate them. And for the first time, they're really, really able to allow themselves to be changed by this. And
really?
So, since coming back, the authority of whatever the word is that I've been saying has been so potent that it really has changed people immediately, and has cast rays of vibration into the rooms that I've been in. So much so that people, even those most deeply in slumber, have been roused.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that look like?
And that's been very powerful and a potent movement in my mythic unfoldment of my story. It's really shown me that the power of the word really will overcome all things.
When you say they've started to wake up or become privy or savvy or accept the information, what they've not shunned you, or
they've really willingly listened to what I've had to say, and they've resonated, and they say even though they say, you know, this stuff is you only ever hear about this stuff even in a book, even some books, like you wouldn't even read any of this stuff in, but something about me, something about how you're saying it or who you are is making me actually believe it. Something about you feels like you're telling the truth to me.
Yeah, I've always felt that way about you.
And I don't know why, even though it's easily by far the most outrageous thing I've ever heard in all of my life. It's more outrageous than any of the most sci-fi outrageous movies I've ever seen. But for some reason, I actually believe what you're saying. There's something about the vibration that's coming out of your mouth that some deep rooted part of me knows what you're saying is actually true.
Yeah.
And
go on.
And the idea of that word is that I speak to that place in you that is all knowing. I speak to the part of you that is all knowing, that already knows all this stuff. And so I'm actually saying stuff that part of you knows already is true, and that I'm sort of just reiterating something that is really deeply hidden inside you. Already, and this is what light code is doing. You already know. And this is what the angels are doing. They speak to you in a light code that unlocks information that's already inside you. They basically open up more of your potential.
Because you're already a conduit of God.
You're already a conduit of God. You're already of limitless potential to conduct this power. And all the word does, it just shatters. That's what
you said it earlier. Take away the veil of the illusion of separation.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly that. Since you've come back, when you was laying in that chamber, in that sarcophagus, or however you pronounce it, and you went into this realm, have you invoked any other similar meetings with ethereal beings or gone into other realms since you've been home?
Yes, by the power of the words and the ceremonies and the tools that have been given to me to specifically open up these portals of light, it was put into me that I would roar these mighty invocations and create these spiritual science, like technological sites and consecrated pads that I would be in. I'd cast these words and open up these portals of light so that the higher beings could come through and speak to me and basically direct me of a place exactly where to go, and that they would put it in my heart, a place nearby that was indeed a power place that was sitting on a vein of the earth. A ley line. Near here, yeah. Where you could actually willingly go into a trance and move through out of this dimension fully into the next dimension. And they would guide me in exactly where to go, to the foot. And they, at this time I said, look, instruct me, take me, and directed me outside, and I'm just following the instruction. They take me to a foot by foot millimeter in a very specific special location, and I just, as soon as I got there, same feeling like being on the ley line at Egypt, for example, and your body just gives way underneath you, and your body falls to the ground, and then ascended masters and angels immediately stretch out their hand to you in the metaphysical space, and I was met by another host of angels who would then take me off and soar me into another dimension, into actually the halls of Amenti of Shambhala, of the place where the ascended masters reside, and where the headquarters of where the ascended souls, those who have conquered death by their love of God, channel forth the God power from the infinite potential.
The halls of
Amenti. These are the halls of which they're halls of great wisdom, and only by sacred words, by sacred rites and purification, and by the actual permittance of these masters are you allowed through the actual gates. And they take me to the gates. This happened many times before, but in this particular case, they take me to the gates. The gatekeepers say, is this candidate ready? They say yes, 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 and I proclaim that I'm the son of the light. There's no darkness in me, and I say the magic words, and they will permit me into these halls. They take me into the halls, and they walk me up and down these halls in this metaphysical space of light. And they show me, I'll go past all these doors down this long corridor, and inside of these doors is great inventions, great giant machinery of how you transmit light, of how you transmit this light code, of how you draw it from the ether, giant crystal machinery, giant technology. It almost looked like an extreme sort of science lab, and alchemical laboratories are in these doors and passages, and there's sort of other ascended masters in there that are working on them and channeling light through this machinery, which is like these giant sacred geometric like devices that are using crystals, drawing the energy out of the ether. And they show me all this stuff and show me that this is what you've got to sort of basically do. This is how we're going to manifest it. This is how we do it. And now we're going to take you to meet the chief of chiefs. We're going to take you all the way up. We're going up this winding staircase, and we're going to take you to meet Jesus, who's the master of all of us. And it takes me up to meet Jesus, and there he is at the top of the tower. And the masters leave, and I'm just there alone with Jesus, and we're going to a dialogue, and he is literally the infinite presence of God manifest into a consciousness. He's like the entirety of God manifested into a single node of consciousness that you could actually interact with, like the pure conduit of God.
Yeah.
And he says that these powers that we're giving you are they're serious, and you have to guard your tongue, everything that you say, because when you go into these trances and you say these things, what you say will manifest. And if you say the wrong thing or don't say it exactly right, you will basically cause like a fracture in space-time, and you will do something bad. You'll invoke darkness. You have the power by what we're giving you, the authority of word, that you can raise up darkness. You could do terrible things by this word if you said it in the wrong way. So you have to. They said, don't use this word in vain, and don't use my name in vain, and go forth, be one with the light. And he kept putting his hands on me, and he kissed my head a few times. And Jesus is real. He's the real deal. He's the chief of chiefs. He's the ultimate consciousness. He's actually drawing the God power out of infinite potential. He's the master of masters, and he touched my throat onto my throat chakra, and he changed something. He opened up something in my throat and made it possible that he enhanced the authority of my word in some way. Just loved me, and he was authoritative, but he's like a loving father, truly infinite and godly. He didn't give way to a single emotion in any way, although it was only love. But the single most quality about him that was most notable was that he was of a love that was so enduring that it would never change. He was of a love, he was of pure personality of God, so much that he was of a love that was immovable. He was of a love that no matter what or who you ever was, he would love you with a love that's unfathomable, that is the love of God, no matter who you were at any time, any place. That his love would never run out. What he is an enduring love, an immovable love. He is a love that would never ever give up on you, that would always have mercy on you, and is truly the personality of God. And then he said, right, I'm going to show you how I channel the God energy into the universe. I said, okay, right, let's do this. And he took me down, back with the masters again, and we're in a great hall of stone, in a circular room. And in the middle is a giant crystal, like a giant crystal obelisk. And all the masters, and I'm amongst all the masters in a ring, all standing in a circle around this great big crystal. and we start singing these devotional songs of God, and singing these songs that are of these mighty tones that you sing into the crystal and cause these vibrational things into the crystal, and the crystal vibrates in such a resonance that it draws infinite God power out of the potential of the void, of the infinite emergence of everything. Mm-hmm. It channels it into the crystal, and then like a light hitting a disco ball, the light of God hits the disco ball and then comes out and hits every single master. So it's one light that comes down into the crystal, and then that scintillates into the hearts of all these masters. And at the top of the crystal, literally levitating, is Jesus, and he's like saying the master invocation that's drawing the power out of the ether, and it's through him that the God power is actually he's like the source. He's literally living God, and he channels the light from the eternal, from the all, from the ether into the crystal, and that scintillates into the hearts of all men and all things. And it was basically in that moment, it was the true revelation that the light that is my consciousness, the vital force that is consciousness, is the same as Jesus and is the same as God. That the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit really are the same inseparable force. That you are really truly no different from Jesus. You're a scintillation of the light of Jesus, and he that of God. And so once all this has been given to me, and then they'll beam all their power into me and say that this is how you do it, this is how you channel the God power. I then opened my eyes, and there I was, laying on a muddy field in the grey drizzle. And then I come back home, and then all this code still downloading, and start making more tools. And then
what?
And then a couple of weeks.
That's very overwhelming.
And then a week later,
you're making lots of. What do you do with that?
What do you do? Well, no one can really do anything with it, and it's hard because it's from another dimension. So it's hard for it to do anything with it here. It's hard for Earthman to do anything with that. What can he do with that knowledge?
What have you done? Has it not blown your brain to pieces?
Those experiences
and made you
now
want to be elsewhere?
No, it's made me want to be here more than ever.
Really?
Yeah, here more than ever. Which is the beautiful part of it.
So what's gone on since this?
And then since then, there's on the full moon, I performed another major ceremony, which basically not only that invoked beyond Jesus, which is it invoked literally the pure, actual force of the actual pure word of God, and I was with my tools, immersed and holding all the tools and generating God power out of my hands, and had the the word of God actually speak through me, out of my tongue. I was present and conscious, but I was literally there as a living mouthpiece of the word of God, and it came out of my mouth, and I just sat and listened, and it spoke, and I just let it speak, and I just was literally sitting there as a living oracle of it. And then after that happened, I come in and sort of wrote that down as best as I could. And this is sort of what it was. So I'm there with all this technology, my vibrations ringing up to the point, and I basically have been making all these invocations, and in the invocations that beget exactly what they signify, I was saying, God, truly, I submit entirely my whole source of my being to you. Put your mind into me. Illuminate my mind with the mysteries of the actual workings of how you manifest all things. Place your mind inside my mind so I can see through your eyes all things. And that was begotten almost immediately, and I got to basically see the entire cosmos and the entire creation of everything through the eyes of God and of how it was all made. And then he speaks through me this dialogue and basically says that I'm veiled temporarily now. He said, God says to me, he says, veiled am I temporarily now, though separated only in seeming. Truly inseparable are you from I, veiled to accomplish my mission of earth. Emissary of God are you, your will is mine. By the power of the word I accomplish the master mission. Yes, I am truly revealed to you, yet I remain veiled from you. So you can go into matter and manifest my will. You continually reincarnate with this knowing, with this power. Though sometimes it seems sometimes I can disappear to thee. You are only veiled, never truly separated, only by illusion. You are truly one with me, eternal. You were never born, you will never die. 'Tis illusion that you were born. You are merely separated from the all. 'Tis illusion that you will die, a mere boundary dissolved. I truly walk with thee always. There is never time, I am not. I ascend all things eternally. I am ascension. Every suffering I send is to ascend thee, to bring thee closer alignment with the ascension, to turn thy face toward me. Once thee is truly aligned with this cause, all suffering is alleviated. Expect suffering as soon as these stray, for I am the perfect cause. I am all wisdom, all time, all love, all power, all things. I am that I am. I spun myself from myself. I am all life and all death, a perfected whole. There's nothing I am not. I permeate all things. You become ever more true personality of God, coming again and again, reincarnating with the master mission. You are aligned with my will. You are now doing what I am doing, ascending all things by the word, transcending time and space and all separation. You open the light stream gateway, exposing the master vein of all things. You speak the word unto the unified field, into the all-mind that resonates with all things, that permeates and penetrates all things, all consciousness. I, all nature, is the constant unfolding of the all-mind, manifesting by the life force, geometric perfection harnessing and creating more God power, evolving and perfecting form. More and more of these forms are birth of themselves, ever perfecting. I, by these forms, the universal consciousness is enriched, drawing power unto itself, and the whole made greater, the net power increased. Thou doest the same, but to greater degree, creating more perfect forms that harness and being into God power. By thy wisdom, thee evolve from a greater rate. There's nothing to worry, there never has been. Never truly been separated from me, it's only an illusion. Thereby you live and accomplish your mission. You are eternally the unfolding of my mind. By the word I create, and so do ye who align. Thus ye ascend mankind. I am, la la om, la la. I am. That was literally what come out of my mouth. Well, I'm conscious. I'm sitting there like a
witness to your soul.
Like a witness. Yeah, like a witness. Yeah. And then the transmission ends, and then it was over. And I knew that what just happened to me was the word of God, and that was what God is doing. It all made total sense. And after that point, for me, that was the final.
That was the pinnacle.
That was the pinnacle.
How long after Egypt was that? A few weeks.
Yeah.
Of intense ceremony download.
Ceremony download tools. For me, that was at the full moon.
And that was the apex.
That was the apex.
And what happened? So after that?
After that, I
crash.
I knew that it was
time to come down.
It was time to come down. It was time to now go back into matter. It was now time to go deeper into matter and fulfill the
start
Earth
a new
mission.
cycle.
Yeah, start a new cycle.
The Earth, well, we spoke about the Earth mission to ascend all things.
Yeah.
Okay. Was it easy to come back down?
No. This was a challenge. Although I wanted to come back down, there was so much energy that was actually inside me, so much light that was actually inside of me. There's so much words that had been said. There was so much rights that had been said that had created a vacuum of energy that was pulling me upwards so strongly that there was so much resistance to try and ground me that no matter how much I seemed to eat, nothing seemed to really
How
do
long
anything.
did you fast this whole time?
More or less fasting the whole time. Well, I mean, you're having some tea and stuff like that.
You're not eating solid food
No, you're not
for
eating
how
solid
long?
food. I don't know, a long time.
Quite a while.
Yeah. Quite
Pre-Egypt,
Yeah.
during and after.
Yeah.
So then you start eating to try and
start
cut that
eating.
down.
Yeah.
Did it work?
You hit. I remember the first hit of a little bit of food. It was like, it just slightly took the edge off it, ever so slightly, but it wasn't enough.
Because you've gone to a point where it's so rich.
It was so rich, so intense that it was going to take. I was like, once I'd ate the first thing, I was like, oh god, this is. It's just like someone who takes a lot of booze to get drunk. They might have a whole just neck of beer and go, didn't even feel that.
Yeah.
Didn't even feel it. They're going to have to
So
really.
then you start realising the extent of the descent that you need to take.
Yeah.
So what'd you do?
And so then it's just cheeseburgers. Like the first thing I could think of was like McDonald's cheeseburgers.
You need to go to McDonald's.
Yeah, it's got to be McDonald's. It's like
the epitome
the
of our lower nature.
Yeah,
So you're straight to McDonald's.
Straight to Mackie D's.
On a desperate mission to descend.
Desperate mission to descend.
Are you starting to think, fucking hell, have I ascended so much that I can't come down?
I did cross my mind.
Does the cheeseburgers work?
The cheeseburger works for a little bit, and when they did, I sort of had that drunk feeling. I literally felt like slightly drunk, and a real playful human nature started to sort of come over me. Very playful, very like a child, like a kid. Yeah, and everything was just sort of just really light-hearted and really funny, and thoughts of God just sort of weren't really. I wasn't thinking about God. It made me not. Just made me not think of God at all.
Yeah.
Thoughts of ascension were not of that. It weren't interesting to me in that state.
So it started working.
It started working, yeah, and I was able to in that evening make eye contact with people and I was actually able to connect with their eyes for the first time, because that whole time, whenever anyone talked to me, I never quite connected with them in their eyes, because I was just obviously there was just such a rift. There was like a glass barrier between me and everyone else. Everything that I said, just like the words just flew past them.
Yeah.
And the words everyone else said just sort of flew past me. It's like I was a ghost. And it was nice to finally materialise and to look in someone's eyes and like really feel their eyes connect with mine, and like to share a bit of dialogue with someone where we were actually where I was really connected with someone. That was so warming. I needed that. Yeah, I was like, I suppose I really wanted that. Yeah, I missed that connection with people.
Anything else that helped you come back down?
Yeah, definitely the orgasm. The orgasm is the secret, I think. The
secret?
Yeah, to earthbound life.
Really?
The orgasm is a very quick way to ground. It's so quick to ground.
Why is that?
There's such a release of light that in your light gaining practices, which make you able to receive this stuff, you have to fill the body with loads of light. Your body's like a containment unit for light, and you start filling it up, and it goes to all your bones and stains into your bones, and every part of you becomes imbued with light. And when you come, what comes out of you is that light, that life force that is sentience itself. You generate sentience out of yourself. So that first orgasm that comes out is mighty. If that made a kid, like, that would be a very special child.
Yeah.
That come out, that first juice that come out.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so that was the quickest way to come right back down. Then you were down a little bit, but like it took the edge off more than anything. It's what had to be done, and nothing else come close.
So that did.
That was the only thing.
That done it.
Yeah, that done it.
Did you then? So after such a mighty ascension to come back down, how you been feeling? How are you feeling now? How's it been since?
I thought it would end the downloads, but it hasn't quite ended the downloads. But it's just took the intensity off. Yeah, I'm able to be present in the room with someone and connect with people a bit more.
Mhm.
Yeah, which is good.
So if anyone's like really like inspired by this story and has managed to like overcome any prejudice they might have had, I'm turning that off, that's what are these two on about, and they've actually been captivated by this and they've actually been inspired, what would you suggest? I know you can't, because you can't play God necessarily, but some of us aren't ready to run off to Egypt and laying in the dark chamber. What are some simple tools we can start to wield to pursue our ultimate truth or ascension? What would you personally suggest?
The first inventory, 100%, before there's even any thought of doing anything that's more dramatic, is that he has to purify himself. He has to make the word that he speaks, the words that come out his mouth, and the words that populate his mental landscape, they must be purified.
Okay.
What the final crystallized truth of all of that, of what all of that thing entails, is that the words that I speak and the words and ideas that populate my mental landscape, regardless of what they are, no matter how woo-woo or whimsical or grand or even how dark, they will all ultimately manifest. And so the step one of anyone that wants to get closer to the light of the ascension, they must begin with purifying thought, word and deed, but more importantly the thought, which will ultimately manifest in the word and then ultimately the deed. But the thoughts must be cleaned up. Any negative words, anything that is truly cursed, even sayings that are not good, even figures of speech that are not truly good, that aren't of virtuous merit, they have to be discarded. You've got to leave them behind. Anyone that is spouting word out of their mouth that is not of virtuous merit will not be able to draw close to any of those powers. And so there's the purifying of the word and the mind.
Yeah.
There's the purifying of the body, the detoxification of the body, to a degree where it can actually be a receptacle for the light. The light can't enter the body when it's detoxified.
Yeah.
When it's toxified.
So, obviously, before we start clearing out our bowels and doing a dry fast, what would be the surface layers of that body detoxification?
So the first layers of body detoxification are the potency of externalized pleasure must be dropped.
Okay.
The potency, and it's going to happen only gradually. You will not be able to do all of this in one fell swoop because it will not sustain.
No.
You might be able to do it for a small amount of time, and then you will be begging for your veil back.
Okay. So start to drop things.
Start to drop things. Start to drop those pleasures which are potent.
Yes.
Because every potent pleasure desensitizes your body to subtle energies, to subtle light. And the subtle light is what has the light code information in it. The information that will actually open your DNA and will ascend your soul and crystallize a light body inside of you.
Yeah.
It'll make you resonate with God. And so the man has to purify the body, purify his word.
And the mind.
Yeah.
And that sounds like all three could and must be done in tandem.
Yes.
But it also sounds like I feel the purification of the body might take a while.
The purification body is the longest thing because he spent his whole life living in his father's mind, and he lived in his father's mind, and this was a mind that was totally geared towards consumption and separation, because it's never really truly believed in God, and every man really is born in the pattern of the belief system of his parents and their parents. His DNA is capped. His ability to detect subtle forces and to actually be a receptacle of light information is capped. He is actually, he's not able to receive the downloads because his body is so toxic and his belief system is capped. He cannot comprehend it because he cannot believe it. And so there's the detoxification of the body, detoxification of the word, and really equally as important as all of it is the belief system, the imagination. He must be able to remove the shackles that have been put in place by his society and his parents of his belief system. And the belief system is what caps his imagination.
What do you think some of the most common limiting beliefs are in this sense then, that man can look at and ask where they are in him? I am separate.
All the limiting beliefs will be grounded in a kind of selfishness.
Yeah.
All of the limiting beliefs will be ground in a pattern of belief that separates him from all things.
Yeah. That
makes him believe that he's at odds with the world, and that the cosmos is not user friendly.
Yeah.
And that he's been placed in opposition to nature, and it's his job to dominate nature and to try and dominate God, who's against him, which is a false belief system that's built of fear.
A fear.
Yeah, he must relieve himself from fear.
Fear and tension.
Yes, he must be relieved from fear. None of this will happen if he has fear. He will not be able to detoxify if he's still got fear in him. He will not be able to enter into these planes of comprehension of thought if there is fear in him. The fear is too heavy, it's too dense of a vibration to pass through these membranes to go into these higher dimensions.
Yes.
He must be alleviated of fear. The lower emotions these lower qualities are too dense. They are of a lower vibration. They cannot pass through the barriers.
So if they're in you, you can't get through.
You will be denied access. You will not be permitted to go into these higher vibrations. And so it's really man's job, if he wishes to ascend, he must purify his mind, his body, his spirit, his belief system, and he must expand his imagination. And a great way to start is basically pursue knowledge, pursue art, science, mathematics. Within all of those domains is the secrets of God. And once he has harboured enough knowledge in reverence, he will see the union of all of it as a unified whole, and he will realise through his striving of knowledge and reverence that he is God.
Yes.
He can smoke DMT and have that sensation, but that's a long way around, and it's hot, and that's coupled with a belief system that makes it that has an element of doubt because it's been born by drugs.
Yeah.
And he's able to. If Joe Bloggs smokes DMT and he has the experience where he's told he's God, he's trying to gain wisdom that he hasn't earned yet.
Yeah.
And he's not able to actually fully receive that as true, as absolute, authentic truth. And so the long way around, which is the path of the wizard, the path of the hermit, the path of the man who honours the sacred, will ultimately find at the end, the philosopher's stone, at the end of all the alchemy, of the perfecting of his spirit, that he'll find at the end that he is God, and he has the power to dispel all darkness and to raise himself and others into the light.
Beautiful.
Amen.
I don't think we need to say any more.
Thank you, Rob.
Amen.
Amen, brother.
God bless.
Bless you, brother.
That was wonderful. That was beautiful.
Thank you, but it's me being the conduit of good, Rob.
That's what I want to be. That's what I am.